itchy. All right. And we should be going live in just about a couple of seconds here. All right, so as soon as we pop up there on the screen, I'll know we're golden, and we'll get this puppy started. See, there we go. I knew it was going to take a second. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil, Laird.
Derk Heron.
I'm in Fuego here.
Luis Hernandez.
And we are here to deliver an advanced, non-spoiler review of The Shape of Water, written and directed by Guillermo Del Toro. And that's Fuego diving, I guess?
I'm swimming like the merman creature.
Okay, that has to do with water and its shapes.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so...
And shapely it was.
Guys, we're going to do this like usual. So, yes, we are not going to spoil this. I haven't quite decided. We'll see how this discussion goes. Whether there's whether we decide to do a spoiler dissection separately, or just keep it non-spoiler. You know, forever.
Yep.
But anyway, we're gonna do this like our normal reviews. We're gonna give our overall thoughts. We're gonna talk a bit about the story. We're gonna talk about the acting, the effects, the music, all that good stuff in turn. So. I'm going to go ahead and start it off, guys, and say that I expect to be the lone voice of dissent in this review. I am preparing for this. I was not a big fan of this.
I didn't think you would be.
I liked the effects, but outside of that, I thought it was... God, unfortunately, guys, the movie that came to mind while I was watching... that it reminded me of was Lady in the Water. So that is not it. Hey, you guys can... I know I'm going to be the lone voice of dissent in this one, but this movie was a movie...
Hammer classic.
This movie was a film, to me, it was meant for girls that are females that used to be little girls that like princess stories, that grew up and are now much darker than they were when they were kids.
They're all sick bitches
probably
now.
Here it's even the women are going to be divided into two camps. Some of them are going to be like really on top of this because make no mistake, the marketing was on point. This is an interspecies love story. And so some girls are going to be like, I guess, keen on that. Like the love story aspect, the fantasy element, as it were.
Wasn't that the?
But I think there's going to be a lot of women that are going to be like, hey. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm wrong on that. That's my overall opinion on it. Derk?
I love the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a.
Yep.
I thought it was a great story.
Yeah.
I think that it's one of those movies that's like very original for its time right now, especially since like I think so many movies play it safe.
This didn't do that,
and this did not do that. There was a lot of stuff in this movie that you wouldn't get away with in a Disney movie.
It is an R-rated fairy tale, so yeah. I mean,
but I don't know. I thought that overall, like it's not that like complicated of a story. It's pretty straightforward, but I think it was executed well. It's also, it's got that Guillermo Del Toro style to it.
Big time.
I think that he's going kind of back to his roots. He's kind of taken a step back, after doing like kind of the bigger movies.
Pacific Rim and...
and now he's like just going back to like telling simple stories.
Yeah.
And I think that it shines. I think that this is definitely his best since Pan's Labyrinth.
We need to say not a horror movie.
Not
a horror movie, guys.
Well, it's got a monster.
It's not a
in it.
horror movie.
It's a dark.
It's
dark
a
fairy tale.
creature.
It's a
creature movie, but it's not a horror movie.
Right. Exactly. So go ahead, Fuego.
Yeah, I was impressed with the balancing of so many different themes in this, as far as like comedic elements, romantic elements, bits of like tension and terror at times. There's not an immense amount of it, but I felt like that was the most impressive thing about this film and why I did really, really enjoy it. I don't think I loved it as much as Derk. I did see a few flaws in there, a few things in it that weirded me out that I just couldn't quite jive with. But as a whole, I really, really liked it a lot. And visually arresting, definitely a Del Toro film, and I mean, he brought amazing performances out of all of these top-notch actors too. So it was a hell of a balancing act, and I think he succeeded pretty splendidly. So
Luis?
For me, you know, there was a moment where I wanted to be like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this movie, but I realized there are things I did enjoy myself.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy it, and the thing is, like, I don't, you know, I'm the last person who wants to crap on romance, but that part of it I wasn't too impressed with, but that was such a fraction of like everything else that made up that film that I really
It was the driving
really
force.
no, it was the theme. I get it, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird because it's not like it's like saying, "Oh, I liked it, but I didn't like the story," which is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I didn't like the romance, but I liked everything else about
See,
it.
that
and I'll explain
yeah.
more. And
Yeah.
to talk about it, if you want to compare it to anything, it is a darker adult version of like Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, or like Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But
that's the easiest comparison.
I didn't care too much for the romance. And it's funny because that is like the whole theme of the movie.
You're such a romantic guy, though.
But I did enjoy everything else about that movie. Everything else.
See, yeah, and I can piggyback on that too because while I wasn't overall thrilled with the movie, there were a lot of singular aspects about it that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that throughout the review. But starting off with the story, you start off with this mousy sort of looking mute girl who is actually not very mousy at all. She's very outgoing. She sort of helps take care of a neighbor who's also a friend with loads of cats. And she's very self-sufficient, obviously, just being mute. She's just kind of acclimated and she just kind of blends in with the crowd. She goes to work at this giant lab of some kind, which I actually want to know more stories from that lab.
What else have they dealt with, right?
This story took place essentially involving the contents of just one of the hangars inside the lab. Like, I was curious what the hell was in the rest of the doors.
What were they doing?
You know, like, there's a lot of this. It felt a little bit like a cabin in the woods sort of facility to me. Like, if they're dealing with this kind of thing in one room, what's in the next room? What's in the next room?
They did say at one point when they brought it in, this is the highest profile or whatever specimen they had. But but I'm with you, dude.
The possibilities were there. You know?
I feel you, man. Yeah.
So she works there, and she works there with Octavia Spencer, who is really funny in the movie.
She's good.
But they clean. They're the cleanup crew, and I think it's only a few of them, you know, outside of those two. So we follow them mostly, and very quickly this specimen is brought into the lab. First time we're there, pretty much, and this sort of connection starts to form between our main character and this creature. And the again, it's nothing we haven't seen in the trailers. You see their relationship develop. She brings him eggs. They kind of have a communication thing going on. And from there, it does develop in a sort of romantic drama kind of way with elements of governmental subterfuge. Because of the time period.
I'm like,
very nice.
Because of the time period. This is a period piece.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was done, that's another thing. That's a thing that was done extraordinarily well, which we'll get to, is the set dress and design and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, the story itself, like you said, Derk, it wasn't a whole lot to it, which I think might have been detrimental. I feel like it could have benefited, although maybe an extra subplot would have convoluted things, crowded things, but to me it just felt like it definitely was the right length. It did not need to be any longer.
Right at 2 hours.
So I guess it wasn't enough of an impactful story for me, because
to suck you in.
And the moments that were supposed to be tense and stuff, they weren't as tense as I hoped they would be. The moments of quote unquote triumph weren't as triumphant as I hoped they would be.
Like,
it was kind of very if you're looking for something, if you're looking for like an EKG that's going like this, it kind of just went like this for me.
It's pretty watered down.
And that's snap. That's a good one. All right. So, Derk, your thoughts on the story itself?
See, even though it's a simplistic story, I felt like there was quite a bit of subplots.
I agree there, actually,
because it's all about the characters. It's all about how we're building up to this final moment, and how are these characters going to get there? Because they're taking so many risks.
Yeah,
and I think that these characters realize that they need to come together to help out, the creature.
It's in the trailer, so
yeah.
I mean,
But how they get there is very interesting. I think just because I think it's about, this story is pretty much about loneliness.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Maybe
yes.
even more so than love.
Love,
Yeah, and it's just like when you do find a connection with someone, it's just like you will do everything in your power to keep it going. And I think that,
including eating bad pie.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting. I'm sorry to
No.
but it's interesting when you say like it is about loneliness, and like really thinking about it, like every character in that movie, it was like some kind of connection to like a significant other or someone they were interested in, you know, whether it was a wife, talking about the husband, or
what have you.
Yeah, like, see, that's what I'm saying. For me, like, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Michael, but jump over,
fine.
but
You're fine.
for me, it's like the romance between the creature and her. I didn't care too much about, but I really enjoyed like all the other stories, all the other characters. I even liked her.
I liked her neighbor more.
Well, yeah,
and that's who
great.
I wanted to talk about, man. I mean, I thought Richard Jenkins' performance was...
we're not in the acting yet.
Oh, I know, but
story.
I was going to talk about his,
his
story.
Fair.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point. Okay.
Yeah, his subplot fascinated me because he was the probably loneliest character in the film, even more so than her.
Yeah.
And the fact that he had kind of a connection that he was trying for, and I thought that was kind of an interesting subplot in the way that kind of panned out and stuff, and that... I don't know, there was, socially, I thought that was one of the most interesting things, was all of the different themes that they explored, even if it was just, a little bit here, a little bit there, because of the fact that it takes place in the early 60s, the fact that there is the height of the Cold War going down, and, there was some historical political angles, there was, some sexual and racial angles too, and as far as orientation and stuff, it was just sprinkled throughout. And
it's hard to watch every time.
Because
I know, it's terrible.
It does suck you out.
It made me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but that was part of the time.
I know. And we need to be reminded of that.
Well, I think what it is, what makes it more uncomfortable is the fact that when we're introduced to this movie, it's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And everything, cinematography, whatever, it looks otherworldly. And then when you have these moments of whether it's the sexual or the racial stuff, you are kind of like, oh wow, I just got like jolted.
Yeah, and
I was stuck in this fantasy world, and all of a sudden they kind of hit me with some reality there.
That's true, and that's where I can,
and
that's where I can jump back to the balancing act of the storytelling, though. Whereas I'm actually kind of with Lou about the fact that I always call myself a hopeless romantic, and I love romantic movies, and a lot of that romance just didn't do it for me as much. I mean, it developed in an interesting manner from, friendship to something more. But, it was just the juggling of all of those other themes and, just the fact that it was a fairy tale, but yet it did also balance the fact that, this is a reminder that it is grounded and it is in the real world, and the fact that the world used to be this way and has kind of, we took all these steps forward as a society, and I feel, not without getting super political, but I feel like in the last 5-10 years we've taken steps backwards as a society, and so we're seeing a lot of the themes that were so prevalent socially in the 60s reoccurring now. And so I think that was why the tagline was a fairy tale for our times. So
so let's get into the acting. We'll talk about everyone, but I think we all want to jump right to our favorite of the movie, which is, if I'm not mistaken, Michael Shannon. Right?
Michael Shannon stole the show.
Not yours? Was he not your
favorite? No, he was, definitely.
He is tremendous.
He was so funny in the movie, which is surprising.
For such a bigot and all the nastiness.
He was very slimy and unnerving
and sinister.
You need a Cadillac.
But not like stupid Zod sinister.
No.
Not like where it's quiet and yelling. It's like he had a healthy mix in between.
Yeah, well, he was the representation of of like what I guess at that time a white male in power is supposed to be, and then you saw some of those really ugly things, and
Is Don Draper if he was running security instead?
Yeah. He was like a Jason Patrick Bateman, right? Is it Patrick Bateman?
Yeah.
American Psycho.
Yeah.
Don Draper is how he felt to me. But he owned it.
Oh, he was so
He
good.
owned it.
Every scene he's
scene,
in,
he's
I
chewing
mean,
it
it's
up,
just,
man.
There's no one more interesting in a scene with that guy.
Yeah, he really owns
But I think,
everything.
in a sense too, that he's dealing with loneliness. He can't.
Oh, you can tell.
He cannot connect with people.
Yeah.
When you saw him
Like
at home, he was
Yeah.
so detached from his family that he rarely saw, and even like him and his wife, that it felt so hollow, and his kids just.
I don't think
kissing
he
him
made eye contact with any of them at any point.
No.
Not really.
No.
No, he
And
never
he
looked
didn't-
at anybody.
And that was what was so creepy too, is that he didn't like to hear them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Dude,
Turn up
he-
the TV.
and he-
sit with
and
my
he-
scotch.
And he does it so well.
he
man,
values
with
silence,
that, with that
clearly.
face,
Yeah.
man. Everything's written right there on that awesome
and
face.
when
Yeah.
when he goes.
He always looks pissed off anyway, though, in like
Yeah.
every role he's ever been in. So.
But that was a great moment too when he goes to buy the car, because it's just like he can't find joy in anything, and so
No.
like
He tried.
He tried.
He tried, but
He
that
waved.
And I don't know. That's what's so crazy about that character, is that he was not human.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he was the monster in this movie, really.
Truly, yeah, that was
So-
the dichotomy between him and the creature that he was mistreating and
Yeah.
wanted to just discard and dispose of.
Right.
I have to jump on the girl though. I
Well, you and another in the creature. apparently.
Sally Hawkins?
No, that love
Yeah.
story, man. Ugh.
No,
Go
no,
ahead. Yeah,
the-
the female half. of it.
less the chemistry between her and the name of the guy who actually played the creature.
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones. Yeah. Less that, but just. I thought she did such a good job as a mute without having really any lines.
She
was
was
so
great.
emotive and so wonderful with just implying emotion with her mannerisms and facial expressions and
Especially
stuff
when
like
she
that.
was getting real frustrated at one
Yeah.
point.
Mhm.
That scene was
That was
really
one of my
good.
favorite scenes.
Yeah,
man. Like,
it absolutely was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just hearing like I was like, oh, she's just
Yeah,
say it, say
yeah,
it.
exactly. It's the
Yeah.
it's like that's her screaming kind of
Yeah.
stuff is really
Yeah,
good.
no, she
Yeah.
she was really awesome.
You definitely see a lot of her in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, you do.
And like to be able to like do that, I think it's always interesting when actors are able to like play a character where you lose something, a tool, whether it's like your face if it's covered in a mask or whatever, but like you have to just do it all with the face and all with the, like your body, and like I felt like every beat, like I knew, like I was like yes, like I felt for her a lot.
I did too. And honestly, I think that is the toughest deficiency to have as an actor in a performance and still succeed. Is not being able to talk.
Yeah.
And she did a hell of a job. And the fact that she's like, I loved her relationship with Richard Jenkins' neighbor, and when they're tap dancing together and
That was
stuff,
great.
like
It was
so
cute.
cute.
It was
It
very
was.
cute.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, they had
Although-
this very cool dichotomy of.
While I appreciated something that Guillermo did with her character later in the movie,
Is it the scene I'm thinking of?
Yes,
Where something, no.
hated that scene.
I felt like it was really
Hated
out of
that
place.
scene. So out of place.
It was beautiful looking.
It was
but-
the daydream or the, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I know what he was going for, and I know a lot of people are going to really like it because it ties in with like what's been going on in the
Yeah.
background of a lot of
I
scenes.
think that's
but
what I liked
But
it.
the thing
I
is,
felt
though,
like that
is
scene
that
was pretty heavy-handed.
yes,
you know?
that's what I thought.
but you
It's a
compared
fairy
it
tale, though,
to
right?
a
So-
movie that has a lot of that,
Mhm.
which is Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And
True.
so
Yeah,
when you think about it,
it did have that aspect in that
fairy
comparison.
tale.
Yeah.
right? So
Damn.
so that's the thing, is that like I maybe it might take you out of it, but out of what it was going for.
Yeah.
But I think that also too is that it's almost kind of making fun of it in a sense. It's
Well, I
like
think
kind
it's-
of playing.
it's kind of
Satirizing
I think there's-
satirizing.
I think there's a way.
I think there was a lot of satire.
There's
in
a
that
way
movie.
that scene could have been done if it had happened in the location where it began, and played out, and then had sort of the key players return to starting point and have her like look down and look back up, and they're back in their starting point. Like that was all in their head without actually going to this other place.
I see. So that's
that
what you
would
didn't
have
like
worked a
about
lot
it. It
better.
wasn't like.
It wasn't what happened. It was the fact that it went somewhere else and did the whole thing.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, the scene didn't bother me.
So like,
Because that would have been more brought into her world instead of her leaving her world to go have this little thing.
but I mean,
But that was her way of expressing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were
I guess.
And-
and I guess if you were that lonely, you would daydream of
No, I know.
experiences
I know.
like
That's
that.
why I said I'm like
That's all she
upset.
did was watch.
I'm of two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was
Stuff
saying.
like that
Stuff
on
going on.
City,
Yeah, I
watch
know.
TV and that sort of thing.
That's
And
why
she
I'm
was
like
singing
of
the
two
song on
minds
the
about
TV.
it.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about Abe Sapien. I mean Doug Jones. I mean the creature.
Yeah, you look so similar.
Yeah, there was one particular scene with a particular source of light that made him look very much like Abe Sapien.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time, I mean, Doug did a fantastic job.
Definitely.
It's hard to know where the practical ended and the CG began.
It was pretty
I
seamless.
think it's I thought maybe just right here.
yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But he did an amazing job, and obviously the sounds and stuff were post added. But he's just so good, and I can't imagine it would have been fun to have to get into that every single day that you're shooting.
Yeah.
Whew,
I was thinking about
man.
that too. I was like, man, how does he?
And
like,
he does that for movie after movie after movie.
He
That's,
really
that's
does.
his thing.
He really does. But this, it felt like they were showing all of him way more than they have in other movies he's done similar things.
There's a
Especially
lot
an
of
aforementioned scene.
Yeah, there's a lot of shots of like rising and you getting a good look at this thing.
Yeah, they don't hide him.
Yeah, there was nothing like Jaws.
They did in the trailers.
A little bit, yeah.
And this is a good segue into the effects, then I'd say, right? And the makeup and whatnot, or
top notch.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that is a good segue into the practical, the makeup effects. Yeah, it was great, and actually into the practical gore effects, which there were a few.
When there was gore, it was done very well.
Yep.
Honestly,
I thought so.
and graphically too.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
But yet
Derk was saying he thought it was, graphically expressed, or more so than I was seeing it, because I saw it. And I didn't see anything on there that would have pushed it into the R rating category if it weren't for the nudity. I don't think so.
I think
no,
more
not
so
in the days of
human
The
on
Walking
human
Dead
stuff.
on
Yeah, but that's
on
TVMA. That's for mature
Yeah, but
audience.
but that's 17. They consider that not quite.
Oh, that's
R is 17.
R 17.
Is it? Well, I thought R was 18.
Here's a thought. Maybe because I noticed this when I was watching. Every time there was a violent scene now, watching violent movies and all that, I don't really go, ooh. But there are a lot of moments where I went, ooh.
Yeah.
Really?
And I think it's because,
cringe.
again, it goes back to what I was saying about all the real life grounded stuff that they had. It was peppered in, and again, it kind of made you uncomfortable a little bit. It reminded you oh, here again, I'm in a fairy tale. Oh, this shit is happening.
It's grounded.
It's violent now.
Well, because really the most violent stuff was the human on human violence.
Yeah. And again, it wasn't too graphic, but I think it was graphic enough and effective enough with what everything else in the tone and what I was feeling with the rest of the movie.
Well, and it was also the treatment of people of each other in those violent moments that I think made it seem a little more graphic than maybe practically it was. I mean, there's just lots of blood on people, but what they were doing to each other as they were suffering and getting...
Did you guys see the final effect that came into play story-wise at the very end, coming
The very, very end?
5 miles down the road
of course
I did?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
As soon as we saw her, do that kind of thing. I'm like,
right
come
away,
on,
dude.
guys.
Right
I'm
away.
like, really? You're
Right-
not going to even hide that?
Right
For a
in
while
the,
at
right
least?
in the beginning,
I was like, Jesus.
oh, I think I know where
seriously?
this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, in the first minute of the movie, you kind of got a vibe of what was going to happen.
Yeah, I'm like,
And
that kind of bummed me out, though.
But it also shows that the creature has a power that he can manipulate things.
that might be a little bit of a spoiler.
So
No, I don't think so.
like
No, he's obviously, not normal. He's
Right.
Well, yeah.
he's you know
wasn't
he's an
expecting-
unnatural
That's
creature.
what-
We won't
so
say
don't,
what his power
we don't
is.
know
Right.
anything
Exactly.
about it.
That was one thing I
Well, no,
wasn't-
and it's not even. I wouldn't even
expecting.
call it power. I would call it biochemical. Like it's
Yeah.
not. It's nothing that couldn't be explained by mysterious,
Science.
unnatural biology.
Yeah, science
You
be
know,
praised.
I wouldn't call it powers even really.
Okay.
Again,
An ability, I mean,
no, it's just it's
Part of
it's
his
yeah natural.
anatomy.
It's a natural thing that can happen with his anatomy. Exactly. There's enzymes that do that sort of stuff. You know,
I give
so
him power.
I make them like superheroes.
being a dick.
But yeah,
So-
that came like again the minute you're just like
Yeah.
I saw it.
okay.
but-
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I want to mention, we skipped over him. There was a particular scientist that I thought was a really good actor as well that we have
I
to
wish I
shout
could
out.
remember his name.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Can't remember either. Hofstetter, Dr. Hofstetter, I think was
Yeah.
his name in the movie. But
And you guys said he was on what, Boardwalk Empire?
Boardwalk Empire.
Men in Black 3 is Simple Man.
A serious,
Serious
man.
Man. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Serious Man.
I liked him. I thought
did
he did
too.
a
I
good
too.
job.
He was an interestingly sympathetic performance. He
Yep.
was one of those like middle of the road where I kind of wasn't sure where he was gonna go, like what side he was gonna.
Right? Yeah, that threw me
I-
for a
affiliate
I
himself
kind of
with.
knew.
Did
but
you?
I liked it. Yeah. I
Well,
was like, this
I
is
kinda
gonna,
didn't see it
this is
coming.
A and B are gonna come colliding at some point, and they did. So you know. All right, so let's. What about the music? Would you go? Or actually, no. Let's hit the cinematography and
Yeah,
all
'cause
that
I was
first.
gonna
Black
say,
set pieces.
It
Yeah,
was
oh, yeah, there
beautifully
you go.
shot. It's I mean, it's obviously Guillermo Del Toro. He had a few shots in particular with like raindrops and stuff that I thought were just beautiful looking in the
I thought the
transition
whole
area.
opening,
I thought the
Yeah.
whole
movie-
opening was amazing. Well,
whole
the whole movie was brilliantly shot, sure,
Yeah.
but the opening. To sort of bring you into the world that you were about to watch
The
and stuff, I thought that
transitions
was
from
really
the-
cool. And in fact, how it did, because it's interesting because you see you see part of it in the trailer. I won't spoil what part, but you do see part of it. But the way it sort of that scene ends, how everything sort of
I
settles.
was trying to figure
Yeah.
out.
I was
how
like,
do
that's
you
so
do that? I was
cool.
like, how do you do that?
It's so cool.
How do
Oh,
you
it was
do
CG.
that?
It was
All of it?
Yeah.
I don't know. man.
But it was still really well done CG though, so I liked it. So
Yeah.
yes, the cinematography was outstanding. The set design though,
Set design
and
was
the set dress, the props, all that stuff.
Especially being a period piece. I mean, it was
So
spot
good.
on, using all of the old TV footage and everything.
caddies,
Yeah.
you know. Oh man,
What I
so
kind
good.
of what I found interesting about it with like the set because it is a period piece is like how like this felt like a really small movie of his.
It does.
And
Yeah,
how
I feel
like
like
he
that.
utilized certain like it didn't really move like at different locations. It
This
kind of
felt-
used the same little spots and like and like because the set pieces were so well put together,
It had sprinklings. Yeah,
it felt big, but it wasn't big.
Despite
Sorry.
being
I didn't
so
mean to
it,
cut you
so
off.
it
No,
was
that's
big
cool.
despite being contained.
Contained, yeah.
Yeah.
it definitely also had sprinklings of Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, especially at one particular point in the movie, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this again." I was like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so that's how this is gonna go." But no, it twists differently and things like that. Well, maybe even not. It's all in kind of how you look at it,
Yeah.
how you interpret it,
There was some-
how you want to walk out of that theater is how you're
Yeah.
gonna walk out of that theater.
True.
I mean, it's
It was-
very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Again, it was a very.
It's different.
I would tell people to go see it. Definitely see it.
See, the thing
Theater?
that I want to get
Yeah,
at
why not?
too.
Why not?
Because it costs money.
Yeah, matinee
ahead.
Sundays.
Well, I felt like that this movie was like so original when it comes to like movies that are coming out nowadays, where
True.
like especially with Disney, how they play. So many of their movies are very safe, or almost
Even-
feel this like the same movie
Even
every
Marvel.
single time. And
Sorry,
and that,
Marvel, you
and
did the
that's
same
what's
thing.
like unfortunate right now, because actually Disney's thinking about buying 20th Century Fox right now.
Talking about it again.
And the thing is that movies like this are not going to be made by Disney.
Yeah,
No.
even if
No
it is Fox
way.
Searchlight. Although to
You
be
know?
fair, Disney owned Miramax or still owns Miramax.
I don't know.
Yeah.
At
I
this
think they cashed out for the most
Really?
part. So
Well,
but-
at the time in the '90s, they were okay with having a completely separate studio that they
Yeah, yeah.
owned,
Did that.
but
20
just
years
did
ago,
its,
sure.
did its own thing. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, honestly, without getting too much into it, the idea of that scares the shit out of me, and I do not want it to happen. But
But because
We'll see.
I think that, like 20th Century, like made some pretty risque movies for the most part. Look at Logan. You know, like I think that movie took
Deadpool.
superhero movies to another level.
Yeah,
You
between
know,
that and Deadpool.
just with the violence and just like I feel like that, especially with like the emotion of the characters and everything like that. I think that that's something that Disney kind of lacks. You know, I feel like you're not really connected with the characters so much. It's almost like they force it. That's why I feel like, you know, sure, we're going to get the Avengers, right? But, like, it took 10 years to get there. You had to invest that much time into these characters to really feel for them. But it's crazy when you can feel for these characters so much with just one movie.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is that, like, I don't know, man.
You like the fact that it was you saw it in a theater and it was something different that you don't normally see at the cinemas.
And
it's true.
Especially with like the budget it had, because it had a pretty good budget. You could just tell by the effects.
Yeah.
And I think that
he doesn't work on nickels and dimes. So.
So this is very weird for me. This is sort of the inverse of what normally happens, where a lot of people won't like a movie, and I'm like, hey, I enjoyed it. You know, like I was entertained, so that's fine for me.
Yeah.
Like it's not that I love the movie, but you know, it wasn't. I didn't find it a waste of time. Everyone else hates on it. Now this is the opposite thing for me. Like everyone else, I think is going to love it. And while yes, I understand it's unique and it's different, I still can't help how I walked out of the theater, which was just kind of like, eh.
I personally think it's going to be 50-50 with a lot of people. There's certain themes explored in this film that are not going to jive with mainstream audiences. They're just not. But I can see why.
For sure,
I can
not
see
with
why the
a lot of Christian people and stuff like that.
And people like my parents, they would love like half of this movie, and the other half they'd be horrified by it.
Yeah,
you know? And that's the thing. This is very tailor-made for the art house, the art film community, and you can see why they're gushing about it. That scene that we were talking about, the fantasy scene, totally tailor-made to try to get this in the Oscar race for, you know, just that sort of, you know.
I mean, I could see it being a contender for like best.
There's a lot of speculation it's gonna be a best picture contender.
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Especially that is the buzz.
Definitely
that people
the
are having.
effects, I think.
Yeah, best
you know,
picture.
and probably maybe cinematography, maybe, you know, like I think also the staging and stuff like that. You know.
Let's wait till those Oscar nominations come out. There's buzz, man. You know, musically though, I thought the music also, just like the set design, set the tone of the era wonderfully. I loved how they used all kinds of like old French songs, and the score itself felt very, very European in a lot of ways. You know, with the instruments that they used and stuff like that.
Well, it's a score straight out of like the old 40s, 50s movies, and actually. A lot of scores that is like, you know, the French love story kind of movies. Yeah. You know, like that kind of sort of stuff. Yeah, the violins and accordions and shit like that.
Yeah, and I'm immediately envisioning like Lady and the Tramp and
that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. They might as well have been biting on either side of an egg.
Yeah. I keep saying it, but Beauty and the Beast. You know, it comes down to like, you know, the little candle guy, the fucking French guy.
Yeah, Sarah, you probably will like this. I'll go to checking the comments in just a second. The last thing that I have to say is this might have had one of the most enjoyable F-bombs I've ever seen dropped in a film.
Yes.
That moment was so good. So good, man. I loved that moment. So
since we've ignored the comments this entire time.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, they're all talking amongst themselves. I've been looking.
Which is what we love.
All right, so Cecil scratching makes him a happy puppy, confirmed. What? Okay, so Fuego can't swim, his hair would sink him. All right.
Hey, I just turned into Cousin It, and it just all goes like...
so anyway, yeah, we had Sam Power, Sandra Wheelbrenner. Yes, Sandra, I did receive the card in the mail today. I have not opened it yet.
We love you, Sandra.
But thank you very much in advance. Wences is here. Ms. Morning is here. Channel Sundown is here. Or at least these people were here at some point.
Yeah. We are
Trent Davis is here. Let's see. It's a lot of highs and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're all just chatting amongst themselves. They're having a jolly old time.
Cecil's always late to the post office. How dare you, Sandra? Let's see. All right. Good night, Sam. You're already gone. All right.
Sam
so
was like,
Survivor is here. What's
I'm
up?
a survivor.
Let's see. Nope, not yet. Survivor. No, has anyone seen Mercy Christmas yet? No, they're all talking about other movies. All
We're
right.
so happy you guys came.
Obadiah Osceola.
Ooh.
Hello, horror loving brothers. I love your show. Thank you,
We
sir.
appreciate it. Cecil was actually cited by a fan
Yeah.
when we were walking out of the
Random
theater.
shout out
That's
today.
pretty cool.
I love
That
your
was
YouTube
really
channel.
cool. Yeah, just coming out of the theater, we were standing there waiting for the Derkster, and two young ladies walked out, and hey, I love your YouTube show. I was like, oh,
And
shit,
Cecil's
God,
like,
thanks. Nope, definitely not that.
Brush your shoulder off, dude.
Yeah. All right,
Not
so
too shabby.
let's see. Krampus was fun. They're all talking about Mother Krampus.
Why are they?
Krampus.
They're like, we're not even listening
Satan's
to you
Little
guys
Helper.
talk.
I really don't think they were. That's hilarious. They're like,
Boys,
we'll watch
boys,
this later.
boys.
Hey, I don't mind. Wet Paint Pictures is here. All right, cool.
Saying boys, boys, boys.
Boys, boys, boys.
think
There's a little bit of that going on in the movie.
There was, yeah, there was.
Let's see.
Boy, the way that played out too.
Beautiful.
I knew that's how it was
I
going to
did
go.
too. I did
That's the thing. Like, there was so much that felt so predictable, and yet when it played out, it was
were
no
just
less
like,
entertaining. though.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it kind of takes you out.
But that part was especially bad. I was
Yeah, I
like,
was like,
"Ooh, this
ooh.
motherfucker, dude."
Yeah.
Oh.
And yet, I loved when
Oh.
when he took the napkin and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
wiping his tongue off, like
There's points in that movie where it makes me feel like I wish I could peel the white off my skin. You know what I mean? Like, oh god.
And yet, just to give like final thoughts, I'm with Derk in that I laughed so much more in this movie than I was expecting to. Like, you saw some
Obi Geek says love the music.
Yeah.
Tying on.
nice.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you saw some whimsy in the trailer, but I don't think it
Whimsy?
really gave whimsy. But it didn't really give the
Cool, whimsy.
it didn't give the impression, obviously, of just how much humor was going to be in this movie.
Oh, I don't know why I didn't. It's Survivor Sam. What's up? All right.
So are we all caught up?
Yeah, I think we are. I bet she turns into a water creature too.
We're not.
We're not
confirming
saying anything. Wow, groupie's still here. All right, yeah, everyone's still here. 14 nominations
Yeah.
at Critics' Choice.
Yeah, and that's
Wow.
often indicative.
Jeez.
Yeah, I told
Doug
you
Jones
guys.
should get an award for sure. That I would be behind. If they
Yeah.
gave him a supporting or even a leading, would they? No,
Nah.
she's the lead.
Well, the
right?
buzz is about Richard Jenkins getting a supporting nomination.
That would be
What
perfect.
about
And I
Michael
think that too.
Shannon?
That part when that
Yeah.
part was so
wasn't
good.
it great? And then
at the
when he
end,
had the hand
yeah,
again,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
laughed
yeah.
so hard. It was great.
And
that
he was
good.
just like, all right.
Yeah, he's like, okay.
All right.
Oh man.
All right, guys. Well, you know what? I bet a lot of you are gonna like it. I think I even like it more than I thought I liked it. I
You
just
have to watch it again. Just
I
watch
might.
it one more time.
Yeah, I don't think so.
One more time.
I mean,
I liked it.
I liked it
it.
way more than Crimson Peak. Crimson Peak, I was bummed
Yes.
by. Like, I was so
Yeah.
disappointed
Crimson
in that.
Peak was all stylism and really not much story at all.
Right,
you
it was
know?
the Nicholas Refn of Guillermo Del Toro
Hey,
movies.
hey, now.
How dare
Sorry.
you, sir?
I like Neon Demon.
How dare you?
All right, guys.
So should we spoil now, or should we do something separate spoilery?
I don't
Is there
think
much? I
there's
wouldn't
nothing
say,
else
yeah.
really
Because
needing
like I
to-
feel like there's
there's really only we implied the one
Yeah.
thing we could really spoil, and that's
You don't
about
want to
it.
say too much because like I feel like it will take like, even though it doesn't have twist. This movie has no twist.
No, it's pretty
But
straightforward.
some of the things we've implied, it's better to be seen and hear than like
Yeah,
secondhand.
because it's not like straight,
Yeah.
bone zone stuff.
Yeah. See it for yourself. I said
Yes,
said go
definitely
see the movie.
Make up your own mind.
See it. Yep.
Because Cecil hit it on the nail right at the beginning about how I think girls are going to react to this.
Yeah,
Really,
it's going to be
really,
two
really.
groups of girls, really.
Yeah.
Some are going to be into it.
there's
And-
gonna be 10
And you're going to
groups
want
of
to seek
boys.
those
There's gonna
groups
be
out.
open-minded guys like us.
If you're a
groups of
single,
boys and
if you're a single man, you're going to want to seek out the girls that are into this movie because they be freaks, y'all.
That's kind of a really good point. Cecil
And
brought
now
a
Lou is
really
like-
excellent point.
He's like, I
think
know who I
what-
need to take to see this.
know. Get on that old Tinder.
New favorite movie? The Shape of Water.
Well, the previews looked really good. I've always wanted to be involved with a... Anyway.
Yeah, all right. Let's make those fins flap, ladies. Here we go. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The whole...
I was thinking of the.
All right, guys.
yeah.
Compared to compared to Pan's Labyrinth, I didn't like it as much as Pan's Labyrinth.
Me
Nowhere
neither.
near as much as Pan's Labyrinth.
It's not quite there, but it's still really, really, really good.
But yeah, it is. It's worth seeing. I could be swayed one way or the other if it's worth seeing on the big screen or if it's worth seeing on your slightly smaller big screen at home.
I think it's a theater experience, personally.
Fair enough.
That's just me.
All right. Well, all right. We're not going to be spoiling anything. Thank you guys very much for joining. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Derek Heron.
Gracias. I've been having Fuego.
Luis Hernandez.
Click the link in the description box to our TeePublic site under the merch store thing towards the top. If you do so, you will be supporting the channel. You can get some stuff still to some people in your life for Christmas.
Yes.
Any horror fans.
Or
there's
Hanukkah
some really
or
amazing.
Krampus
Yeah,
or-
absolutely. Kwanzaa, whatever you want. We're all encompassing here.
Festivus for the rest of us.
So yes, make sure you do that. If you do so, you will be supporting the channel, and we love you very much for doing that. Thanks again, but until next time, remember, stay scared!
And always practice safe sex with creatures.
Oh. And once you see this, come back and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. I'd like to know.
Fish skin condoms.
Scared.